Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. First of all, yes, I do have a new setup for my videos now, so expect videos to be looking like this or similar going forward. So let me know in the comments below if you like this or if you liked my old format if you've seen the previous videos. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. But yes, this video, I was originally going to talk about more things leading up to the NHL draft, but with uncertainty regarding the NHL draft and me wanting to make sure that I've researched enough players, because I've done a lot of my own investigation, research in regards to a lot of the prospects in the NHL in this 2020 NHL draft, assuming it still happens. I want to make sure that I'm fully aware of all the prospects, and when it comes to doing mock draft videos, talking about prospect breakdowns in particular, among other things, I just want to make sure I know basically all the ones that I should know about, and doing more research on guys that aren't expected to be drafted until the mid to later rounds. So until I get all that done, I am not going to be doing those videos, so expect them more closer to the NHL draft, assuming they happen. But with that being said, yes, I am talking about the NHL free agency today. And even though we are a ways away from the free agency, and with uncertainty as well if it's going to happen on time with the pandemic around the globe right now, especially North America, the NHL is still trying to figure out what they're going to do with the salary cap next season. It might drop, it might stay the same, it might rise, who knows? But the speculation is right now it's either going to stay the same or drop, which is not good and can really dictate the fate of some of these bigger fish in free agency in terms of what kind of contract will they obtain. They might take a shorter term contract with a bigger hit, so that way they can still stay in their prime pretty much and have a big long contract in a year or two. So we'll see what happens there. But talking about the big fish in free agency when it comes to defensemen, you of course have to start with Alex Pietrangelo, and then you have other guys, whether it be Tyson Barrie and Torrey Krug, and then after that you have some decent defensemen, but not too much fantastic, like spectacular defensemen. After him, you have guys like Sami Vatanen, of course, TJ Brody, Justin Schultz, Brendan Dillon, Travis Hamonic, Eric Gustafsson, who I like. I think he's a solid offensive defenseman. But regardless, I'm not going to be talking as much about them as I am going to be talking about the big fish, the top three when it comes to defensemen in this video. So starting off, I am going to talk about Tyson Barrie. Tyson Barrie, when he was first traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs, I thought that was a terrible trade by the Maple Leafs part. If you're a Leafs fan, and if you see this, I apologize. I was never a fan of it, because the main problem that the Toronto Maple Leafs have had, from what I've seen and what has been spread out through the hockey media over the past couple of years, after they finally finished their rebuild with all these young studs on the offensive front, was that they struggled defensively, and it is shown year in and year out. And the same applies this season. And even after acquiring Tyson Barrie, who, yes, was a 59-point defenseman last season with 14 goals and 45 assists for the Colorado Avalanche, has slipped up quite a bit this season. And yes, you may say it is in part to him playing in a new city, new team with the Toronto Maple Leafs, whatever it may be. I just didn't think it was a good acquisition, and I still stand true to that, because Kyle Dubas, instead of addressing the blue line like in my mind he should have, with a more defensively minded defenseman, he went out and got Tyson Barrie, assuming that the offensive production will be far prominent and will make the defensive woes not nearly as prominent, and that is not the case, as you know if you follow the Leafs at all this season. They have had a roller coaster season with a head coaching change, with acquiring Sheldon Keefe, and even with acquiring him, Tyson Barrie has had some strong games and some not great games either. He's been up and down throughout the season, as the rest of the Toronto Maple Leafs team as a whole has done. So with all those things being said, though, what is expected for Tyson Barrie if he hits free agency? Well, in my mind, I fully hope, honestly, that the Toronto Maple Leafs do not re-sign Barrie. I think it's in their best interest to let him walk and try to acquire via trade a more defensively minded defenseman. Yes, they have Jake Muzzin, but he is injury prone and he isn't getting any younger. You got Morgan Rielly, who can contribute offensively on the blue line. I don't think they need much more than that. I think they really need some better top four stay-at-home defensemen, or just better two-way defensemen. Tyson Barrie, he's not terrible in his own zone by any means, but given the offensive mind that the Toronto Maple Leafs team has as a whole, I don't think having a guy like Tyson Barrie in there is going to do them much justice in improving their defense. So assuming that they don't re-sign him and he does walk, what can be expected? Well, he had a cap hit this year of $5.5 million, assuming he becomes an unrestricted free agent. Teams like the New Jersey Devils, the New York Islanders, and possibly the Colorado Avalanche maybe. Actually, maybe not so much the Avalanche. I'm not too sure. But definitely the Devils and Isles, I feel like in that metropolitan area, could be making a run for Barrie. They both have been looking for a better puck-moving defenseman. The Devils assumed they were getting that with PK Subban, but that obviously has not been the case. And while he has a big cap hit, the Devils can afford a significant cap hit, so don't be surprised if they go after one of Tyson Barrie or the other two big fish on defense for the free agent market. But also the Islanders haven't really had a good puck-moving defenseman in quite some time. Yes, they have to re-sign Matt Barzal because he is in the last year of his restricted free agent contract. That may be true, but they can still handle a cap hit like Barrie if they choose to seek it. Barrie, I'm assuming, will be looking for upwards of $7+ million a season. All depends on the term, but overall, expect Barrie to be in the Metro if he does not re-sign with Toronto. That's just my opinion. Or maybe he'll go back to Colorado because they have the cap hit. Who knows? But in my opinion, it would make a lot of sense for him to go one of the Metro teams because they both are looking for puck-moving defensemen. And while the Devils are kind of in a rebuild, I still expect them to be making some splash at free agency because they have the cap to do it. Next, obviously, you have Torrey Krug. Torrey Krug is a really underrated defenseman, in my opinion. One of the many fantastic defensemen for the Boston Bruins who just look like they have everything figured out properly when it comes to their overall game. Torrey Krug, the 29-year-old defenseman now, and also Tyson Barrie is 28, in case you were wondering. Krug, especially this season, has looked pretty good, and he started a family now. I believe he has a kid now. He's married, and he's been doing a lot of great things for the Boston Bruins. 2 seasons ago, he had his best statistical season with 59 points, including 14 goals and 45 assists, as well as what Barrie had last season for the Colorado Avalanche, respectively. But Krug especially, he is a little bit smaller in stature, but that does not change his game by any means. He's a pesky defenseman that likes to pinch up in the play, but is very defensively reliable comparing to some of the other defensemen, especially on the market currently. And I expect him, if he doesn't re-sign with Boston, to get a big contract. Boston can afford him, in my opinion, but they do have to deal with the restricted free agent likes of Jake DeBrusk and Matt Grzelcyk, and of course the unrestricted free agent and their captain Zdeno Chara. I expect Chara not to retire yet. I can see him signing one more year, assuming that this season is done for and he doesn't get another cup run. I'm sure he wants one. So assuming that doesn't happen, I expect him to resign for $1 million or $2 million. But DeBrusk is going to take a raise, no question. Same with Grzelcyk. So can they afford Krug? I would want to say that they can, but time will tell. So in my opinion, I can see Krug either staying with Boston or possibly checking out free agency, maybe going back to his hometown in Detroit with the Red Wings. But at the same time, I don't feel he would want to go there unless he for sure was going for the home part and the money more than anything. And if you know anything about the Boston Bruins and their mentality, they know how to make their players want to stay and even take pay cuts to stay with them. So we'll see what happens. But Krug this season in 61 games played has 9 goals, 40 assists for 49 points, and a plus-minus of -4. Not bad at all. And going back to Tyson Barrie too, he has 5 goals and 34 assists for 39 points and a plus-minus of -4 in 7 games. So that's also why I feel that Barrie isn't a great fit with Toronto, given the lack of production on the offensive front. I get he's on a different team, but overall, I just don't think his cap hit will be worth it, and I just don't see how it's going to make sense for Toronto in the long run. But my opinion, like I said. But going now to number 1, we have Alex Pietrangelo. Pietrangelo is one of, if not the best, one of the best defensemen in all of the NHL. He's fantastic two-way. He was on pace for a career year season with already having 52 points in 70 games, and his career high was 54 points a couple seasons ago. But overall, Pietrangelo is such a great defenseman, a leader in the locker room, along with, of course, being the captain for the St. Louis Blues when he first became captain after David Backes left them to go to Boston. Pietrangelo has done a great job, Stanley Cup winner now, leader for them, like I said. And this season, in 70 games played, he has 16 goals and 36 assists, leading to that 52 points and a plus-minus of +11. So much to like when it comes to Pietrangelo. He's 30 years old. He's in his prime. He's going to take a significant increase in his pay with a new contract. I don't see how the Blues keep him because they just, of course, re-signed 2 defensemen. What was his name? One of them, McLaren. I forget the one defenseman's name. And then, of course, you have the other defenseman that they just signed as well, which I don't know why I'm blanking on, but they signed him to a 4-year contract. So with all that, I just don't see how they end up keeping a guy like Pietrangelo, and that was Scandella that I was talking about with the new contract. But Pietrangelo, he's going to take a big increase. His cap hit currently is 6.5 mil, and Krug also, going back to him, has a cap hit of 5.25 mil, and I can see Krug going between 6 and 7 mil going forward. But Pietrangelo is definitely going to be looking upwards of 9+ mil, and rightfully so. Like I say, he's one of the best all-around defensemen in the NHL, deservingly so. It's not like he's discredited by any means. He's a fantastic defenseman. And teams that I could expect to see look out for him, kind of similar to Barry, I think that the Islanders and the Devils would definitely check him out. I think the Avalanche might check him out too, not just because of the cap space they have, but because of the fact that they can definitely cause problems for the St. Louis Blues if they take their captain away from them. The Blues and the Avs have had really strong games against each other, and I'm sure the Avs would love to get an upper hand on the Blues, at similar to like when they were looking at Chris Kreider. That would have made a lot of sense as well back at the trade deadline with taking Kreider away off the market from, say, the Blues, and he goes to the Avs. I think this is very similar with Pietrangelo. So we'll see what happens, but expect the Avalanche to be in consideration because they can afford him. They can make things work. They have some UFAs that are going to be off their team after the season, off the books. And even though they have Cale Makar, Ryan Graves, and some other really solid defensemen on that blue line, bringing in a guy like Pietrangelo would really take them over the top, in my opinion, and they have the offensive depth. So even if they can't keep Pietrangelo long-term, if they have to trade him after a couple of years, I think that he would definitely help them get the job done and ultimately winning a Stanley Cup. But that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree with me, where I think these players are going to possibly go. Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your feedback. If you haven't checked out previous videos, make sure you do right down here below. I'll have something there for you to click if you haven't seen them already. And with all those things being said, thank you again so much, and I'll be back in a day or two.